Hey there, how you guys doing? Usually if I'm making a video and I misspeak or I get a detail wrong or something, I'll just put a corrective note in the description, which you should always look for. But I draw the line at giving really stupid, bad advice, which is what I did when I originally made the unboxing video. So, welcome to my fake unboxing video, take two. All right, ready? Good. Hey, look at what I got. This is my first impulse purchase in I don't know how long. Usually I can resist them, but and I'm pretty good at it. I mean, one of my favorite pastimes, let's say, is what I call virtual window shopping. It's where I sort of just look at the websites of some of the major retailers who sell the cameras and lenses that I enjoy buying, and I just see what's going on. What are they selling for? What's available. What's not available. What's rare. What's common. I don't know. It's just whatever. My own OCD, which I've turned into a YouTube channel. So the other day I was goofing around and I ran across Camera Store's website, and they will post their new acquisitions with a little sticker, thing next to the listing that has indicating that it was uploaded within the last 24 hours. And I saw this thing, and it caught my eye because it was only 35 euro, which is pretty darn cheap. Not that you care, but I live in Israel, which imposes import taxes on anything over 75 US dollars. So anything over that limit has got to be something really nice to justify. But for 35 euro, I'm like, well, what the heck? Wait a minute, what can I get for 35 euro? So I clicked on it, and what I was surprised to find was an old Kodak retinette listed in 4 out of 5 condition across the board. So Camera Store generally, I mean, they use a 5-point rating system, and generally speaking, their best bargain shooter grade stuff, what's roughly equivalent to say KEH's bargain grade or used Photo Pro's very good condition, is rated 4 out of 5 mechanically and 3 out of 5 cosmetically. And that is generally where you get the best deals on. Cool. All right, I think that's it. I think I got it. That's generally where you get the best deals on Camera Store stuff. And this is the third camera I bought from them, so I have confidence in their rating system. So when I saw this was rated 4 out of 5 across the board, mechanical, optical, and cosmetic, that caught my eye for 35 euro. So I'm like, well, heck, what do you get for 35 euro? It must be a real, some cheap piece of nothing. But it's not a cheap piece of nothing. Another thing that caught my eye was the fact that this guy has a Prontor shutter, which is a very well-known name back in the day, and a Rodenstock lens. And Rodenstock made good stuff, and as far as I know, I think they still make good stuff. My first Rodenstock lens was an enlarging lens, which I brought here to show you. So when I was a kid, I had a small darkroom in the utility closet in my parents' home, and this was my enlarging lens. And it's a Rodenstock. It's a Rogan RS, which was not their cheapest line, but it was a budget line. But nonetheless, even Rodenstock's budget line is better than most others, good stuff. And the cool thing about it was the F numbers illuminated. They lit up in the darkroom, and that you could pull this out like so, and move it around with no click stops, or you push it back in and you got click stops, which is really kind of neat. I like that. Wait a minute. Was this focus function and this was aperture function? It has been so long since I've used this thing. Whatever. I don't want to talk about this. I just want to show you the fact that I did have a Rodenstock lens many moons ago, and so it caught my attention when I saw this. And it's a 45mm f2.8, which obviously isn't blazingly fast, but it's not bad. It's certainly good for general street work, that's for sure. And it has an aperture range going from 2.8 to 22, and a shutter speed range going from 15 to 500 plus B. and it's a zone focusing system. So functionally, this camera has a lot in common with the old Soviet Smena. And the Smena also has a zone focusing system. The apertures run from 4 to 16, so that the kodak has an extra stop on either side. And the Smena's shutter speeds, here they are, go from 15 to 250 plus B, so the Kodak has one extra shutter speed. And the Smena I mean, this is all plastic, every doggone bit of it, except there's, the pressed metal for some of the shutter functions. But this is pretty much an all plastic camera, as opposed to the Kodak, which appears to be mostly metal. And this thing is in just beautiful condition. I mean, I don't know what it looks like on the video, but this thing just shines. I mean, it looks like it's been polished, and maybe it was. Camera store's pretty good about cleaning their stuff up before they sell it. So this looks like a really neat little contraption, gizmo. And I tell you what else I did before I bought it, before I pulled the trigger. Although I was kind of like, should I do it? When you see that it's like brand new listing for €35, and you think it's kind of cool, the first thought in my head was, well, I can't be the only one to notice this. Somebody else out there is going to see this and pull the trigger before I do. But I had enough self-restraint to at least download the owner's manual. Believe it or not, this is not a particularly common model that you see a whole lot. But nonetheless, I found the owner's manual for this at Mike Butkus' site. And if you don't know who Mike Butkus is, I mean, I don't know him personally, but I mean, the guy is basically an institution. In the same way that, say, the massive development chart is an institution in the analog community. Mike has a website where you can download in PDF format owner's manuals for just about every analog camera ever made. Certainly 35 millimeter. I don't do. I mean, that's all I shoot, so I don't know about the medium format or whatnot. But in fact, if you're looking for an owner's manual, all you have to do is type into the search engine Mike's last name, Butkus, followed by the model, the make and model of the camera, and it'll pop right up. It's that easy. And so I looked at the owner's manual and read a little bit about it, and I was intrigued. And it looks like a reasonably well-built, solid little, what I guess you could call a point and shoot. I don't know, but does point and shoot include zone focus cameras, or is that excluded? I don't know. But I'd rather have this than a point and shoot for a couple reasons. First of all, most of the point and shoots from the 80s that are so popular are made of primarily plastic. They use electronic components that will fail. They're going to fail. They were not built to last. I mean, these plastic point and shoots made in the 1980s were not intended to last 40 years. And when they break, they're just done. They're gone. Whereas this is mostly metal, as far as I can tell. It has no electronics or battery of any kind. And I think the zone focusing aspect is an advantage in an environment where repair techs are becoming harder to find. And even if you find a repair tech, he or she may not have the experience of having worked on one of these. This camera was introduced in 1959, as far as I can tell. That's what I found on the internet, so take that for what it's worth. Although the owner's manual that I downloaded at Mike's site did have, I mean, it definitely had that 1950s vibe to it. Totally. It's funny to look at. It really is. All the guys are wearing like jackets and ties, and the ladies are modestly dressed and have the hairdos that I recognize from like my mom's high school photographs. It's great. It's like going back in time and buying like a brand new camera practically for 35 freaking euro. Plus 20 euro shipping. But how can I complain? I live in the middle of nowhere. 20 euros, and it took 3 business days to get from the Baltic to the Eastern Mediterranean. No complaints, none. So this looks really neat, and it was not originally made for what I'll call. It wasn't a camera that's made for photographers. And when I say that, what I mean is this. I think a good working definition of photographer is someone who understands the relationship between film or meter sensitive, film or sensitivity of the sensor, excuse me. Yeah, the film or sensor sensitivity, aperture, and shutter speed. If you understand the relationship between those three things and how they work, then I think you can call yourself a photographer with a straight face. So the back in the day, they would try to use, well, essentially, if you see anything that has a pictogram on it, that's kind of an indication it was not meant for professionals. Although these pictograms are not meant for exposure; they're meant for focusing. And you've got the mountains and the group of people here and the single person. But I will focus this camera the same way that I focus the Smena. That is, I will use hyperfocal focusing. And if you don't know what hyperfocal focusing is, please see the video I did on that. Right here, you've got the hyperfocal marks there and there. That bracket. That bracket right there is your essentially your zone of focus, your area in which things will be sharp. And you're gonna, as you, I don't want to mess around with this just yet. See, this is the focusing. Because that's okay. So if I take, for example, say the lens is set at f11, I'm going to move the infinity symbol over to f11, like so. Then I go over here to f11, and I can see that between, let's see, this is meters and feet, so that's going to be 1.7 to 2.5 meters. So let's say roughly 2 meters. So from 2 meters to at f11, from roughly 2 meters to infinity. No, excuse me, that's not right. That's not right. What am I talking about? Here's the bracket. What am I thinking? No, it is. Okay. I'm sorry, new camera. So this bracket is for open aperture, I guess. I guess that's your hyperfocal at open aperture. All right, I'm going to have to figure out I'm going to have to do a little homework before I start talking about how this thing works. But I'm pretty sure that hyperfocal focusing, I would take the at setting the lens at f11, I would put the infinity mark here, and then over here I'd have like, yeah, that should be right, 2 meters to infinity at f11. All right, don't take that to the bank just yet. I'm going to do a little homework and use this a bit before I do a follow-up video in which I discuss how it works and what my opinions are, whatnot. I just wanted to talk about sort of the concept of impulse buys and why I pulled the trigger on something that I'd never even considered owning one of these in the past. But when you have an opportunity for 35 freaking euro to get what is essentially an almost new 1950s era camera that's mostly metal and has a lens from a fine German manufacturer, I mean, it's like that's a no-brainer. That's just a no-brainer. I mean, I thought about it, I'm like, what's wrong with the thing? 35 euro. What's it, what's the trick? What's the catch? Doesn't look like there's any catch. Of course, if there is, I'll do a follow-up video and let you know. Okay, I think that's about all I've got for the time being. And please subscribe and check out the links below if you find this video either entertaining or informative. And as an added incentive and accommodation to my subscribers, as a matter of policy, for the first 30 days following release, videos will not be monetized. So you can watch my videos commercial free for 30 days following the date that they go live. That's just a way of saying thank you to my subscribers. And I very much appreciate having you along and contributing to the conversation. And I will see you next time I have something interesting or amusing to say. Take care. Bye-bye.